Please subscribe, like, comment, and turn on the notification button so you are aware of our future episodes that you will love so much. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another installment of the Film Biz Show. We are right in the heart of the Africa Rising International Film Festival, and we've just seen a very thrilling and very interesting piece of film written and directed by Karabo Lediga called What Did You Dream? First and foremost, thank you for joining us, Karabo. We've been wanting to see you for a while. And your career is, ever expanding and forming, just transforming. But this short in particular, What Did You Dream, talks about a game that's very close to our experiences in the community, in the townships, Mochaina. What inspired this film, What Did You Dream?
The entire inspiration behind What Did You Dream was literally me trying to find a way to honor my grandmother. She raised us, my cousins and us, and I guess my mom and my maternal family, but an entire community, you know. I just felt like she's one of those people who will go down in South African history unseen, you know, and I think a lot of our grandmothers are not seen and our grandparents are not seen, and in favor of, I guess, more well-known historical figures in like apartheid South Africa. But I thought, oh my goodness, like, you know, we have heroes in our backyard, you know. And what she literally did is like, she hustled hard, you know. She would sell anything for us, maswiti, the ice block, or, you know, she was a hero, and then she never made it feel hard. We had to kind of cut the orange into 6 ways or 7 ways, but it never felt like hardship or lack, you know. And then the idea around 5 feet as well was her way to make extra cash, but she made it fun for us, you know. She's like, what did you dream? And we had to imagine, you know, something outside of reality. I thought, oh, how cool that you involve children in dreaming in such a dire kind of situation, you know. Like, this whole 5 feet thing is kind of like a dream playground for children, you know. But it's to buy bread and sugar, you know. So yeah, basically that's the inspiration behind that.
So for our viewers who don't understand what Fafi is, you mind just explaining?
I did a lot of research on Fafi. I grew up on Fafi, and the basics of it is it's gambling, right? It's the lottery. In the film, we translate it as Chinese lottery because we wanted something that was politically correct.
I get you.
So what it is that usually a man of Chinese origin runs a gambling ring. Every day, twice a day, in the morning and in the afternoon, he draws a number, and the community will bet on a number, much like the lottery, but it's one number. And then whatever number is picked, obviously whoever bets on that number will win. So it's at the basics. But then according to how much you bet, if it's 2 rand, I think you get times 6. Or if it's 50 rand, you get times 6, whatever. And then the magic of it is that people believe, the Chinese community and the African community normally, believe that every number is attached to some kind of spiritual symbol. You know, it could be shit, which is in the film. It could be a king or a bird or whatever it is, but something that will appear in the dream that kind of gives you a clue on what to bet. You know, it's almost like astrology. It's kind of ethereal, it's cosmic, you know. So we all kind of try to remember a dream, and if something kind of gives you a clue as to what it's related to numerologically, yes, and then that's what you bet. So that's where the magic comes in. But if you're being very factual about it, it's pure gambling.
Yeah.
And sometimes could be seen as a bit exploitative and addictive, you know.
And now in the dream, the grandmother advises the child who's struggling to have clear dreams to take, I believe it's aloe, you know, just to kind of clear up her dreams. Did you draw that from an experience while growing up where Gogo was saying, you know, here's something to say?
So honestly, when I try to, I don't know where I came up with that. There was always like a vibe about aloe, you know. Yeah. So I thought, and I thought about aloe in the way it's used, like in at funerals. I've always seen as kind of like a cleansing kind of plant, which it is mythologically, but in a material sense that is used to cleanse a lot of things spiritually or whatever. It was never directly linked to the dream and Mochina. I just kind of made, as an elder, I also made that connection. So
lovely.
maybe in the future they can quote me.
Exactly, and this is how history is created,
exactly, right?
You just take creative
license, spiritual license.
Boom, there we go.
Absolutely.
But I mean, the spirituality of it all is very interesting. Are you someone who's particularly inclined to, that part of storytelling, or do you find, do you have sort of like a process of whenever you go into a creative, space, that element takes over?
I think it's very subconscious. I think you kind of jam with story, and I know when I don't jam with story, I can't write it. So often, because as a freelance writer, you're hired to do all sorts of things, and sometimes they don't go down well. The vibe is not right. So I do know that I lean a lot on vibe while writing, and I write all sorts of things. I write horror, I write sitcoms, so it's never that deep. I come from a sketch writing background, so I write crazy things. So it's not like I'm writing like, but if it's bad or if it's abusive or it's kind of maybe bad stereotypes about black people, then I don't write it. So maybe there is a spiritual thing to it, but it's not conscious.
I love that. So I'm assuming you've had the privilege of being able to travel with some of the films that you've been a part of and seen the reaction of international audiences to some of our work. What do you think? What do you think is the current perception of South African film? And also, there's a conversation around some of our films not being commercially viable for an international audience. If that is so, what do you think has been our missing link in something that we can kind of, mitigate?
I think there should be a meeting point between really honest storytelling that comes from a personal perspective, like the kind of stories that I want to tell, and meeting kind of commercial kind of requirements, right? Because we don't make stories for ourselves, we make them for audiences, right? But seeing films around the world and seeing South African films play to the world, what is apparent is that story is universal, things that we know. But when it's very specific to us, it becomes unique. So it becomes a unique selling point that we already inherently have. So if we honor the uniqueness of our stories, like Mochina, or like Matwetu, a film that I love, it plays so well.
Cult classic.
I watched it in South Korea. I watched that film in South Korea, and it played so well. There was no misunderstanding. There was no. They laughed, South Koreans, and they're not English first language speakers, and that thing was in Pretoria, so it's all subtitles, So I think thinking very honestly about who we are and representing ourselves in our true sense, and then it meeting the very expensive medium of film, which needs to be commercially viable. I think that's the magic. And I fear that a lot of the streaming culture forces people into very dishonest storytelling, which then automatically doesn't resonate. It won't. It's almost like the recipe is wrong, The bread won't rise.
No. And it's also like there is no will to change it. Because it works in that small dynamic. Let's keep you there.
Yes.
And
And also there's no desire or will to explore the possibility, because right, it works. But what story is, it's constant experimentation. I mean, how do you get a Tarantino or Spike Lee in the same universe, It's a very different kind of voices, but very, very honest voices, But that's what I think.
Wonderful. You just finished your first feature. Can I say the title? The Sabbatical. Guys, it's going to be hot. Could you just, because I know you've got the golden touch.
Thank you.
And you've got a wonderful cast.
I do.
Mona, who's an incredible actress. Mam Clementine, Ntate, Siputlo Asibolo. That's your homeboy from Pelenda.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, that's how I got him on the phone.
You're using your leverage.
Yeah,
but can you just tell us about the process of the film?
It was interesting. I'd been writing the film for a long time, and people like to, I know script writers like to say, I wrote it for 6 years. No, I was working.
Okay.
So when I could, I wrote on and off. It's not like a 6-year writing thing. But I had it for a while. I really wanted to hold off making any other feature, like let's say a commissioned feature for a Netflix or an SABC, because I really wanted my voice, like the short film, which is why I made the short film, almost like a stepping stone to a first feature. That's kind of my voice. And it's like the first, like the short film, it's almost like an honorary, it's a thing about honoring mothers, you know. But this one is a bit fucky because the mom is like a dodgy, it's a dark comedy, you know. And it's all around the expectations that our parents have on us as kind of the first generation that kind of tastes freedom. There's a lot of pressure, you know, and perhaps not understanding what it means to be catapulted into white worlds. We become kind of monsters and kind of feed off, you know, something else, like an individualism that doesn't reflect where we come from. And then when we go back home, they're like, oh, what's the hell? You know, that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's like a mother and daughter kind of tussle in getting to know each other for real. Yeah. Outside of it's Mercedes. So it's like almost like the truth kind of laid bare between this mother and daughter, where expectations have kind of define the relationship, which is kind of untrue, you know. So it's also set in Pretoria, but like more like a Acacia vibe. Cool. You know, the mom. And it's so it's like a suburban Pretoria tale.
You seem like you draw a lot from your own personal experiences when you write. I mean, even now with What Did You Dream, these are children from Pretoria. I believe you sourced them from the Pretoria State Theatre. You know, how does that work for you in terms of rather drawing from experiences that you have firsthand?
I think it's almost like if you can do the cha-cha, I don't know why you wouldn't just do the cha-cha, you know what I mean? Okay, because and I think there's like a flex to being very specific about, you know, worlds that personal stories kind of, you know, it provides kind of that scope to be specific. And since I believe in specific stories, the ones I know are from Pretoria. But I do know that mother and daughter relationships, and I do know that private school and Model C kind of conversations are a little bit more universal, you know. But I like the flavoring, I like the itty-bitty of it. Like if somebody takes a fatuk and wipes the floor, like I want you.
You know what I
mean? So like I like that new. I like to go into the nuance, but I don't know the other world. So for now I'll work
with what you.
So if I do like a Star Wars, it'll be like some guy from, I don't know, Gandalf on like a spaceship or something. You know, that's interesting.
Oh, if people use Gandalf,
I don't know.
Does not work together.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I also think Pretoria is really cool.
Very.
Yeah. So
very.
I think it's cool, and I like the people from Pretoria. I think they're funny and
colorful.
Very colorful.
Yeah.
So,
I was actually thinking about it, you know, growing up, the perception about Pretoria was it was a place of hustlers. Because but now it's a place of comedians.
No, I'm like, that was funny.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, what about my showman? What about the legacy?
You know what I'm saying? You know, my boy, what?
And now we're funny. I don't like that. I know my mom was telling me, we were talking about this guy who's from Pretoria, from my neighborhood, who stole, but he was like a really
nice guy.
Nice guy, but like a really idiotic thief. You know, he didn't. You know when we're disappointed. That's what Pretoria. We're disappointed in the lack of Pretoriness in this, you know. But now we're just funny.
But
we've got Folka. Listening.
Oh yeah.
I'm really proud of him.
I love him. Joe, like it's so funny because it's personally not music I would. But every time I hear him, he just has that thing.
I know Folka know what you do something. But
Karabo, look, man, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you for having me.
Presence. You know, for me, you know, when I saw your film, I really felt this is someone that I personally, you know, would love to engage with over and over again. So may this be the beginning of a new journey for Ena, and I'm sending all my prayers that may sabbatical be an absolute hit.
Thank you so much.
And knockout.
Thank you so much. Oh, ke a leboha, yes. And I'd love to come back. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you.